All right, now we're gonna take a look at a shape that is a little bit stronger, a little bit more masculine. You're seeing people wear hair at this medium length, kind of flowy, push it back, it's layered, it has movement, but it looks intentional. And I think that's the most important part, is that we make the decisions and the outcomes look intentional while looking suitable to the individual. So we're gonna go through an exercise where we create a layered shape that's very loose, very trendy, has a lot of different styling opportunities. It can be styled straight and polished and groomed. It can be styled more natural with some natural texture. But we're gonna play off the bone structure. And what we've done already is we've actually pre-paneled or pre-zoned out our haircut. What we've done is we've separated the top from the back and the sides. We know that along here is the parietal ridge, or what would be the parietal ridge on a human being. On today's model, guest, mannequin, they've got a smoother bone structure, so we've created where that would be. Now, for today, like I said, we've separated the top from the back and the sides. I know that we want to manage this area of the hair a little bit differently than we do the top. We want to create something that's layered, but also fits the bone structure. So we've separated the top right along this parietal ridge here, and as you can see, it dips down slightly in the back. The only reason we did that is because in the back of the head, the hairline dips down. So we want to manage it in the same sort of way. We're gonna create a layered shape, once again, that fits the bone structure and fits the head shape through the back and the sides. And then we're gonna get into the top and create something that has a lot of versatility and a lot of different styling options. So let's get cracking on. I'm gonna start on the side. The reason why I'm gonna start on the side is because that is a manageable amount of hair, and it allows me to cut a section, check the length. Cut a section, check the length. Once I'm happy with section number 1, then I'm gonna move on to the rest of this haircut. So starting with section number 1, right here in the sideburn area, I'm gonna comb the unnecessary hair out of the way. And as you can see, if I turn to the side, we're using vertical sections. So that means that my sections are straight up and down. It's gonna make it a little bit easier for me to maintain some of the corners that I wanna keep in this haircut. Now, if I wanted it to wrap around the head shape, then I would probably change my section angle so that it'd be easier to do that. But for today's end result, I wanna keep everything pretty flat to the head so that I maintain a little bit of a corner here, and I would maintain a little bit of a corner on the outline. So I'm gonna pull this hair straight out. Now, like I said, we're creating something that's a little bit more lived in, something a little bit more loose. So I pull that hair straight out. I'm gonna cut down to my second knuckle. I'm gonna keep my elevation. I'm gonna recomb right to my cutting line again. Drop my section. I think this is gonna be a really good, suitable length as far as an end result goes. We're gonna have something that's lived in. You can push it back, tuck it behind the ears, that sort of thing. Now, I'm gonna take another vertical section. Now I'm looking to pull this hair straight out from its base as I cut it, meaning that I want this area along the top to be the same length all the way around the head, okay? So as you can see, I've taken another vertical section straight up and down, and I'm going to over direct the previously cut hair onto the hair I'm about to cut. So I'm actually gonna comb the hair backwards. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna allow me to make sure that the hair that I'm cutting is being pulled straight out from its base, and I'm using the hair that's been previously cut as a guide. So I want this to follow the bone structure as we work through our shape. So it'll create something that flows around the roundness of the head. Once again, another vertical section. Now I'm choosing to cut the hair in my fingers with my palm facing me. What that allows me to do is that allows me to see my guide, it allows me to see the root of the hair, it allows me to see my over direction, my elevation, and it allows me to see the scalp, which that's where all the controls are happening, is at the scalp. The final control is the cutting line, which is in my fingers. So we're starting to create this shape here, something that's flowing away from the head shape, and it's gonna wrap around the bone structure here. Now you do have a choice when you go through a shape like this and you're working with vertical sections. Some people prefer to cut over their knuckles, overhand. Now that's an option, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. The reason why I wouldn't suggest that same approach through the entire haircut is as you get down towards the nape here, I want to follow the curvature of the head, so it's going to be very difficult for me to follow it this way. So choosing to cut it with my fingers pointed up and my palm facing me ensures that I'm going to be able to kind of curve my hand in and follow the bone structure. So once again, taking some of that previously cut hair, I'm looking at the roots, making sure that the hair is being pulled straight out from its base, cutting that vertical cutting line. Keep my elevation, walk down the bone structure. Now, as we get towards the back of the head and where the hairline gets lower, what's gonna happen is my goal now is to make sure that the hair at the top of the section and the hair at the bottom are the same length. I don't want it to get longer, I don't want it to get shorter. So I wanna be really mindful of how I control the hair through this process. Again, a vertical section. Comb the unnecessary hair out of the way. And now we're starting to wrap into the lower part of the hairline here. I'm gonna look to take some of the previously cut hair. I'm gonna take my comb, make sure I grab some of that. Straight out from its base. Check my guide. Hold the elevation, add hair to it. Walking all the way down. Now as the bone structure changes here in the nape, I'm gonna look to change my cutting line to match it. So as I start to work into this nape area, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise the mannequin up. The reason why is because the bone structure changes here in the nape, and I wanna make sure that it's workable and easy for me to follow this bone structure here. So once again, taking another vertical section, comb the unnecessary hair out of the way. If you have enough moisture in the hair, you can just comb it right out of the way. If you feel like a need, you can use a clip. I'm gonna keep it right here. I'm gonna take my comb, I'm gonna slide it into the previously cut hair, grab a little bit of my guide. Comb, check for my guide. Follow my cutting line down. Again, hold my elevation and add the hair to it. And as I come down, once again, I'm gonna look to match my finger angle to the angle of the bone structure. So my cutting line is gonna follow the bone structure all the way down to the nape. So once again, I want the length here and the length here to be very similar, okay? So we'll create this little flow of a shape and we'll have some little bit of length down here, so we'll have some cool texture to kind of play around with here. Another vertical section. So as you can see, I've kept all my sections vertical all the way. I'm nearing the middle. Now you have an option here when we get to the middle and we talk about that you can follow it all the way around the head shape. That's great. Or you can go back to the front on the other side. Again, I'll take some of the previously cut hair. I'll comb it into the hair I'm going to cut. And I'm only cutting what I have 100% control of. If I don't have control of the section, I'm not gonna cut it. So I'll cut typically to about my second knuckle, comb, readjust, check for my guide underneath. Cool. Moving on, next section. I'm gonna repeat the same vertical sections, the same over direction, the same elevation. All my controls are gonna be consistent from section 1 till I'm done with the back and the sides. So from a profile view, take some of the previously cut hair, comb it straight out from its base, check for your guide. Some of the previously cut hair. And as you notice, I don't drop each section after I cut it. The challenge would be to pick it up and find the same elevation and over direction that you found on the other sections if you continue to drop each section as you cut it. Cool, and as you can see, this is already starting to fit into the bone structure here. So we'll have a little bit of length flowing backwards, and this is gonna follow the bone structure here, so it collapses down into the nape, has a little bit of build up here as we move around. It's gonna be this nice layered end result. So sometimes when you're working on shapes like this, it's really important to make decisions that are complementary to the bone structure. So that's exactly what we're doing here, is we're looking to create something that fits onto the bone structure nicely. Some of the previously cut hair. As you can see, my elevation and over direction are consistent from section number 1 to this section I'm on now. My cutting line is reflecting the shape of the head underneath. So it's not that I'm graduating hair, it's that the head is that shape underneath the hair. All right, as we've gotten to the middle on my first side, I'm gonna choose to come back to the front and do section number 1 on the other side. Now, the challenging part and the most challenging part of doing something like this is to make sure that both sides are even and consistent. So one of our mentors in haircutting always said, sisters, not twins. So that's a rule that I abide by. I'm looking to get it as close as possible. Now, you may be wondering like, oh no, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna measure? Am I just checking by feel? Is it emotional? What I would suggest is that you use this little thing right here. This has essentially little markers on it. So we can use it to measure hair as it comes out of the head. And choose like, okay, that's about the 5th or 6th tooth past the middle. So I'm gonna look to take a reference point here and look to see if we can't make it pretty close. Always err on the side of longer. Check, check, double check. That's gonna be a little bit long. Can always cut it shorter or can't cut it longer. So we'll check this. That's feeling pretty good. Check the bottom of my section. That's feeling pretty good. I'm gonna check, check, double check over here. That's feeling pretty good. Awesome. I feel happy about that. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna repeat what I did on side 1, on side 2, till I pass the center back, and I will be done with the back and the sides. All right, we've gone ahead, we've finished up the back and the sides. You can see that profile shape just hugging the bone structure underneath. Fits in, a little bit longer, more lived in end result. We're gonna now move into the top. We're gonna cut this from a profile view, and what I'm going to do is I'm gonna use a little bit of this previously cut hair as a clue for my choice of length in the crown. Now there's a couple of different ways you can cut this. You can cut it round following the head shape, you can cut it flat to the wall. There's a lot of different options. I'm gonna choose to cut it following the head shape here, but I'm gonna use over direction to pull the hair towards the center so that I maintain a little bit of length and weight towards this corner, which is what I'd like to see in the end result. Now I'm gonna comb all the hair forward. Now keep in mind, the hair on top of the head here has 0 haircut history. So I'm gonna have to create something completely new. Wide side of the comb for sectioning, and then I immediately switch to the tight side for grooming. Again, taking that central section right down the center of the top of the head. Do my best to get that hair groomed out of the way. And I'll show you just from a front view what that looks like. We've taken this central section here, as you can see, right down the middle. Now I'm going to choose to use some of the previously cut hair in the back as a bit of a clue for my choice of length. Now I want to maintain the idea that this hair is going to follow the bone structure, so I'm going to use, like I said, some of this hair that's been previously cut in the back. I'm going to find that length. And I'm going to cut a shape that's following the bone structure here in the crown. Rounding up as the bone structure rounds. As I get towards the top of the head, here, where I'm pulling the hair straight up, I'm going to continue to maintain the elevation straight up from here. So even as the head starts to round towards the front of the face, I'm going to choose to cut the hair flat to the floor and flat to the ceiling from the apex forward to the front hairline. So combing that hair straight up. So that's going to preserve a little bit of length and density towards the front hairline, which a lot of times is where we start to lose a little bit of length and density. So I'm going to look to maintain that. That'll give us a little bit more to work with later if we need to. Also, it creates a little bit of a safety zone for you on your clients and guests so that you have the opportunity to make adjustments and customize it and fit it to them specifically. So I've cut section number 1 down the center. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to work parallel to section number 1, and I'm going to over direct the hair to the previous. So 2 is going to go to 1, 3 is going to go to 2, 4 is going to go to 3, 5 is going to go to 4. So I'm going to comb that hair straight back again. I'm going to divide that down the center. Use the tight side of the comb to groom that out of the way. Take another parallel section to section number 1 there. Groom the unnecessary hair down. Now I'm just slightly off the center here, and I'm going to comb the hair towards me. So by standing on this side of the head, that allows me the ease of combing the hair towards me and making it a little bit easier to maintain that consistent over direction in all my controls with my sections. Now I could stand on the opposite side and push it away from me. It's a little bit more challenging for me to do that. I can do it, but if I can, I'll choose to pull the hair towards me. It's a little bit more natural. It also allows me to see the scalp on the side of the section that has my guide. So that tells me that the guide is coming straight up and that the hair being cut is being combed towards my guide. Now again, comb that hair straight back. I'm going to split that in half. I'm only going to take what I need. Again, working parallel. So by over directing the hair to the previous section, that's going to help maintain a little bit of length and density in this corner, which is what I want for my end result. It's going to keep it a little bit more of a masculine shape, a little bit more angular on the corners, a little bit stronger. A little bit more structure. And again, just as I come up the head shape, I'm looking to follow the head shape. And as I get towards the top, the apex, I'm going to look to cut that flat to the floor and flat to the ceiling. So it's going to keep a little bit of length and density towards the front. Again, split my section so I have a guide for the next one. comb that hair out of the way. Take another parallel section. I'm gonna continue this until I run out of hair. It's probably gonna be this section and then one more. Again, comb the hair towards you. Makes it really easy to see your guide and to follow up the head shape. Again, as the head rounds, I mirror that with my cutting line. So there will be a slight bit of disconnection from the top and the sides towards the front. And we'll talk about what is cool about that when we start to style it. Again, split that down the center, comb the unnecessary hair over. Now on this last section, you'll see from the side that I can actually grab all of this hair, and I know that not all of it is going to fit into my section. So some of it's not even gonna reach. So I'm not concerned about picking up hair that's already been cut or picking up too much hair. I know that there's portions of it that aren't gonna reach this length. Once again, cut that flat to the floor, flat to the ceiling. And as we spin this back to forward, what you can see is we have a little bit of length and density here in the corners. So this, if I cross-check this, pick it up, should be flat to the floor, flat to the ceiling. You're gonna have a little bit of disconnection from the top and the sides here, and that'll give you some more styling options on the end result. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go back, put in my center parting, and I'm gonna repeat the same process on the other side. Couple of options here. I can stand on the same side and push the hair, or I can stand on the opposite side and pull the hair. I'm gonna choose to stand on the opposite side of the head and pull the hair towards me, because I know that that gives me the best end result when I'm working. From a profile, again, picking up that hair, combing it towards me, get to my guide, then remove my comb. Again, get to my cutting line, remove my comb. So as I'm combing the hair, my fingers and my comb stay together until I reach my cutting line, then my comb comes out. Straight out from its base, walking it all the way down to where it's connected with what was cut on the back and the sides. I'm gonna repeat this process all the way down to the corner, and then we'll cross-check it. Combing the hair up. Once again, in the front, I'm looking to keep that hair flat to the floor and flat to the ceiling. Now, if they had a different texture, density, or you wanted a slightly different end result, you could change your over direction. So instead of pulling it straight up, you could pull it towards the center, you could pull it towards the corners. It just depends on where you want to keep or maintain length and density, right? If you wanted more length and density towards the top, I would pull the hair down. If I wanted more length and density towards the front, I'd pull the hair back. If I wanted more length and density towards the back, I'd pull the hair forward. If I wanted more length and density towards the bottom, then I'd pull the hair up. Once again, comb that unnecessary hair out of the way. I've got this section, then probably one more. Again, flat through the top. And as we reach the roundness towards the back of that zone, I'm gonna look to mirror the bone structure here. And then I have one more section here. Once again, this last section, I'm not concerned about picking up too much hair because I know this hair on the sides isn't going to reach my cutting line on top. Flat to the floor, flat to the ceiling. As the head starts to round, I look to mirror that, and you'll very quickly start to run out of hair here. Cool. And then as I said, if I cross-check this, my sections, lift it up, I should see something that's flat to the floor and flat to the ceiling. So now we have this layered shape that has a lot of options. They can style it groomed, they can style it a little bit messy, they can move the hair around. We created something that follows the bone structure in the back that allows this to follow the curvature of the head where it reaches the nape. And they have a little bit of length and density on the top to kind of play around with different ways to style it.